So good morning and welcome to Contract Policing 101, the webinar brought to you by the Ministry of Public Safety and the Solicitor General and the Union of BC Municipalities. My name's Craig Hodge, and in addition to being a Coquitlam City Councillor, I'm also the Metro Vancouver representative on the UBCM executive, as well as the co-chair of the Local Government Contract Management Committee. This is the committee that oversees the contract for providing RCMP policing services to local communities in British Columbia. And I'd like to begin in a good way by acknowledging that I'm fortunate to be able to join you from the traditional territories of the Coast Salish peoples, and in particular, the Coquitlam First Nation, on whose territory the Tri-Cities stand. And I'd also like to acknowledge the traditional territories across British Columbia where our members work and reside, and many of you are joining us today from those areas. It was great to see so many local government representatives here in attendance today. And this is certainly, I think, a reflection on how important policing and protective services are in our communities. We wanted to put on this webinar not only in recognition of the fact that but also because contract policing is a complex and at times it's difficult to fully understand. So we're fortunate to have Jamie Lip, the Executive Director of Indigenous Core Policing and the Contract Management Division, here with us today to provide you with an overview of policing in BC. Following Jamie, I will present on the Local Government Contract Management Committee, and we've also left some time at the end of the webinar for questions and answers. So before I turn things over to Jamie, I have a few housekeeping notes. So I think you're probably familiar with most of these, but key to note is that we are going to record today's session all the way up until the question and answer portion of the agenda. So the presentation that we're giving, the next two presentations will be recorded. And this is mostly just to help to keep this for future as a resource for our members. Second, I'd also like to ask everyone to please keep their microphones on mute until we get to the question and answer portion. And lastly, we will be accepting questions following that second and final presentation. So please use the raise hand function if you have any questions following the two presentations. Now that we've sort of got the logistics out of the way, I'll turn things over to Jamie for his opening remarks and his presentation.
Thanks so much, Councillor Hodge, and welcome everyone to today's webinar on policing in British Columbia. As Councillor Hodge mentioned, my name is Jamie Lip, and I'm the Executive Director of Indigenous Core Policing and Contract Management Division. And it's my pleasure today to be delivering this presentation in partnership with the UBCM on behalf of the Policing and Security Branch of Ministry of Public Safety and Solicitor General. I'd also like to start today by acknowledging that I'm joining you from the traditional territory of the Katzie, Kwantlen, Semiahmoo, and other Coast Salish peoples, where I feel very fortunate to live and work, and whose historical relationship to the land continues to this day. We have a lot of information to cover today, as Councillor Hodge said. Policing in British Columbia and the structure of policing in British Columbia is fairly complex. I'll be going through a fair amount of information today, and we'll look forward to any questions at the end of the presentation. And with that, let's begin. We'll just provide a quick overview here that this presentation today is organized into 5 main sections. And in these sections, we will cover the legal framework that underpins policing in the province of British Columbia, the structure of policing and the various policing models that we have here in the province, an overview of the various governance structures, as well as a snapshot on the current policing environment, the current issues, as well as future considerations. So we'll begin with a focus on the legal framework. Canada's Constitution outlines the division of powers and delegates the responsibility of policing to provinces and the federal government. Policing and public safety is a shared responsibility between all three levels of government. The BC Police Act outlines the responsibilities of the provincial and municipal governments to provide policing and law enforcement services within their respective jurisdictions. The province contracts with the federal government to have the RCMP serve as the provincial police service. And this is outlined in the Provincial Police Service Agreement, or PPSA. The RCMP is governed by both the RCMP Act and the BC Police Act, as well as the policing agreements. In accordance with the Police Act, municipalities over 5,000 population have a few options that they can choose for the delivery of their policing services. They can establish their own police service, which would be governed by a police board. They can contract with the provincial minister to receive policing services from the BC RCMP as the provincial police service. Or with approval from the provincial minister, they can enter into an agreement with another municipality, such as an adjacent municipality that has an established municipal police department, to provide policing and law enforcement services. Municipalities that receive policing services from the BC RCMP as their municipal police service enter into a municipal police unit agreement, or MPUA. And that agreement outlines the services, roles, and responsibilities of municipalities as well as the RCMP. The Police Act specifies the minister's responsibilities to ensure adequate and effective levels of policing across the province. The Director of Police Services, on behalf of the minister, is responsible for superintending policing and law enforcement in the province. These superintendent's functions include central oversight of policing in the province, monitoring provincial and municipal RCMP policing agreements, administering programs such as those related to organized crime, guns and gangs initiatives, First Nations policing agreements, and enhanced road safety initiatives, training and support to police boards, developing policing policy and legislation, leadership with respect to police service delivery and technology, managing non-police law enforcement and activities such as the appointments of special provincial constables in the province, and reporting on provincial crime and policing data. Policing in British Columbia is administered through a series of policing agreements, and you may hear us refer to this generally as contract policing. There are three main agreements, and these agreements are each between two levels of government. The RCMP isn't a signatory to any of the policing agreements. Essentially, we would refer to them as a service provider. We collectively refer to these agreements as the RCMP policing agreements or contracts. The first agreement is the Provincial Police Service Agreement, or the PPSA. This agreement is entered into by Public Safety Canada and the province of British Columbia. It allows the RCMP Provincial Police Service to provide policing services to rural and unincorporated areas throughout the province. With the exception of Ontario and Quebec, the other provinces and territories also have a PPSA, or Provincial Police Services Agreement, or in the case of territorial governments, a Territorial Policing Services Agreement. The Municipal Police Service Agreement, or MPSA, is also an agreement between Public Safety Canada and the province. This agreement enables the use of the RCMP Provincial Police Service established in the PPSA to be utilized as a municipal police service. The third agreement is the Municipal Police Unit Agreement, or MPUA. This agreement is between the province and individual municipalities who have a population over 5,000 population and choose to have the RCMP as their municipal police service provider. In all other provinces and territories, with the exception of British Columbia, the federal government contracts directly with municipalities with populations over 5,000 through an agreement called the Municipal Police Services Agreement. BC is unique in this respect because the province wanted to have clear oversight of policing in the province. This approach also acknowledges that local governments want greater opportunity for input and oversight over policing that they receive through these agreements. In accordance with the Police Act, the province has a responsibility to provide policing services to First Nations and Indigenous communities that fall within the areas of provincial policing responsibility. In addition to what we would describe as core policing services that Indigenous communities receive through the provincial police service, the province has entered into a framework agreement with the federal government to administer a program that provides called the First Nations and Inuit Policing Program, or FNIPP. The FNIPP has three distinct agreement types: quadripartite, self-administered, and community tripartite agreements, or CTAs. Self-administered policing agreements operate similar to a municipal police service and are governed by a police board. Community tripartite agreements, or CTAs, provide First Nation communities with RCMP members who provide culturally responsive, enhanced policing services. First Nations communities work with the RCMP to set their policing priorities through community consultative groups, and these priorities are executed through letters of expectation that are signed between the service provider, the RCMP, and the community. A quadripartite agreement is similar to a CTA, with the exception that the service is provided by a municipal police service and not the RCMP. We have examples that we'll share a little bit later in the presentation of these three agreement types. While the Police Act prescribes the legal roles and obligations of the province and municipalities to provide policing services and public safety, it also mandates oversight and accountability structures that are designed to increase public confidence and transparency in policing in British Columbia. The Independent Investigations Office, or IIO, is a civilian investigative body and has jurisdiction over both the RCMP and municipal police departments to investigate incidents of police-involved serious harm or death, whether the officer was on duty or off duty. The IIO was created following the Braidwood Commission of Inquiry into the death of Robert Jacansky. The Office of the Police Complaints Commissioner, or OPCC, is responsible for overseeing police misconduct investigations and to ensure investigations of misconduct occur in a thorough and comprehensive manner. The OPCC is solely responsible for investigating allegations or misconduct involving municipal police departments. It does not have jurisdiction over RCMP-related investigations. Allegations or complaints of misconduct into the RCMP or RCMP members fall within the jurisdiction of the Federal Civilian Review Complaints Commission, or CRCC. This applies even if those members are part of a provincial or municipal police service. The CRCC is not governed by the Police Act. However, because the contracts with the federal government to have the RCMP serve as our provincial police service, it does comprise in part the province's oversight and accountability structure. Now that we've had an opportunity to discuss the legal framework, let's move on now to look at how policing is structured in BC. The RCMP is Canada's national police service. It's established under the RCMP Act, and the RCMP is unique in that it serves as the federal police service. It also serves as provincial and municipal police services for provinces and territories and municipalities who enter into an agreement with the federal government And as we've covered in BC's case, municipalities that enter into an agreement with the provincial government. The RCMP falls within the portfolio of the Federal Public Safety Minister and operates under the direction of the RCMP Commissioner. As the Federal Police Service, the RCMP enforces federal statutes across the province and is broadly responsible for areas such as border integrity, national security, financial crime, and international policing. 100% of the costs for federal policing are paid for by the federal government. Under the Police Act, the provincial government must provide policing and law enforcement to rural and unincorporated areas and municipalities under 5,000 population. As we previously covered, the province contracts with the federal government to have the RCMP serve as its provincial police service, which is outlined in our 20-year provincial police service agreement signed in 2012. In accordance with the PPSA, the provincial government pays 70% of the cost base described in the agreements, and the federal government pays the remaining 30% in recognition of the mutual benefit to the province and Canada. The 70-30 cost share is a recognition of the mutual benefit of the contract policing arrangement. Some of these mutual benefits include facilitating the flow of intelligence between different levels of policing, having RCMP members available for redeployment for emergencies or large events such as wildfires or G20 summits and events, and sharing the costs for use of common police administrative services. The provincial police service operates through detachment policing, which broadly involves uniform patrols and community policing, response to 911, investigative services, and traffic enforcement. Through the police tax, the province recovers partial costs of the provincial police service, specifically general duty and general investigative police functions from municipalities under 5,000 population and rural and unincorporated areas. In addition to detachment policing, the provincial police service maintains the capacity and expertise to resolve the highest risk incidents, target organized crime, gang and gun violence, and serious crimes, and respond to large-scale provincial emergencies or events. This would also include capital-intensive equipment such as boats and aircraft. In British Columbia, the majority of First Nations receive policing services from the BC Provincial Police Service, or the RCMP, with some First Nations receiving policing services from municipalities where they fall within municipal boundaries. While core policing, and by core policing, we're largely meaning those responses to 911 calls, community policing, and the like. The primary service, which is the primary service in many First Nations communities, the province has also partnered with the federal government to administer the First Nations and Inuit Policing Program, or FNIPP in BC. The First Nations Inuit Policing Program provides funding to support enhanced policing services that are in addition to those core policing functions already provided. As part of the First Nations Policing Program, there are 59 community tripartite agreements, or CTAs. These agreements are between First Nations communities, Public Safety Canada, and the province. CTAs provide RCMP officers to First Nations communities who dedicate 100% of their time to providing culturally enhanced services to communities. In British Columbia, we have one quadripartite agreement, which is a partnership between the City of Delta, Delta Police Board, the Province of BC, and Tsawwassen First Nation to receive policing services from the Delta Police Service. Finally, we have one self-administered policing service in British Columbia administered through the program, and that is Statliam Tribal Police, which serves 10 communities. As we've covered in the legal framework portion of the presentation, the Police Act requires municipalities over 5,000 population to provide policing services within their municipal boundaries. There are 11 independent municipal police services that service 12 municipalities in BC. These include Abbotsford, Central Saanich, Delta, Nelson, New Westminster, Oak Bay, Port Moody, Saanich, Vancouver, Victoria, and West Vancouver. These municipalities are responsible for 100% of the policing costs within their jurisdictions. Currently, 66 municipalities contract with the province of BC to receive policing services from the BC RCMP, with an additional 2 municipalities that have recently crossed the 5,000 population threshold. And ministry staff are currently working with these 2 additional municipalities to finalize their municipal police unit agreements. For municipalities that contract for RCMP policing services, there are 2 distinct cost share structures. Municipalities with a population of 5,000 to 15,000 have a 70-30 cost share. This means that the municipality pays 70% of the policing costs within their jurisdictions, and the remaining 30% is paid for by the federal government. Municipalities with a population over 15,000 have a 90-10 cost share. These municipalities are responsible for 90% of their policing costs within their jurisdiction, with the remaining 10% paid for by the federal government. These cost share models recognize the mutual benefit of RCMP contract policing as increasingly effective national policing model to address the cross-jurisdictional, for example, municipal, provincial, territorial, national, and international evolving nature of crime. As we know, crime is becoming increasingly complex and challenging to respond to. And as a result, police agencies have had to evolve in their approach with respect to how they respond and provide public safety services. One method to do this is through integration of services and agencies. Integrated teams provide specialized investigative, technical, or tactical skills and ensure that participants, whether that's a municipality or the provincial police service, have access to this expertise to improve service delivery. Across the province, there are federal, provincial, and regional integrated teams with differing responsibilities and jurisdictions. Generally, these teams are comprised of officers from more than one police agency or members from at least 2 levels of policing, for example, federal, provincial, or municipal. In addition, multiple levels of government may contribute toward funding for these integrated teams. Some of the more known examples of integrated teams are the Combined Forces Special Enforcement Unit of BC, or CFSEU, the Hate Crime Task Force, the Integrated Sexual Predator Observation Team, or ISPOT, the Integrated Homicide Investigation Team, or IHIT, and the Lower Mainland District Police Dog Service. Now that we've had an opportunity to cover the structure of policing in BC, let's move on to how these various policing structures are governed to support accountability to the public and all levels of government. In accordance with the PPSA, the management and oversight of contract policing in the province is governed by the Contract Management Committee, or CMC. CMC is comprised of representatives from Public Safety Canada, RCMP National Headquarters, provinces and territories. In addition, each province appoints 1 municipal representative. The CMC serves as an oversight body to manage the agreements through consultation, engagement, and collaboration regarding service delivery, policing priorities, and other issues that affect governance, cost, quality, and/or capacity of the RCMP or provinces and territories. The CMC's mandate is to support the delivery of professional, efficient, and effective police services under the agreements, to implement the modernized governance relationship envisioned in the introduction of the agreement that is built on meaningful engagement and responsiveness to each other's needs, and to function as an information sharing forum to foster timely consultation and collaboration on all issues affecting the governance, cost, and quality of police services or an RCMP program prior to decisions being made. The Contract Management Committee, or CMC, meets 4 times per year. 2 meetings are held at the staff level, and 2 are held at the Assistant Deputy Minister level. Additionally, CMC carries out 5-year reviews to improve the governance and meet the evolving needs of the parties under the agreements. There are several parameters that stipulate the types of items that can be brought forward for inclusion as part of that 5-year review process. Of note, the province, in partnership with the UBCM, holds engagement sessions which are open to all local governments to provide feedback and information for consideration into the 5-year review process. Any item that meets the requirements of that process are advanced by the province for review and discussion at the Contract Management Committee table. To support the work of CMC, there are various standing committees. These standing committees conduct research and analysis to support CMC in meeting its mandate. As BC is the largest contract policing jurisdiction in Canada, we have representatives on each community, or sorry, on each standing committee rather. Of note, CMC is currently reviewing its governance structure, and many of these standing committees may be consolidated into a single governance committee, which will streamline the work with the intention of expediting key decision-making. However, this direction has not yet been approved, and as such, the governance structure is comprised of 5 standing committees that are responsible for areas ranging from finance and cost containment to national programs and human resources. Although BC's local government contract management committee is not directly included in the national governance structure, the committee is established through the Municipal Police Unit Agreement, and issues raised by municipalities are brought forward through LGCMC, and depending on the nature of the matter, the province will bring it forward to the CMC table. Building upon the provincial governance structure for contract policing, the Municipal Police Service Agreement is entered into by Public Safety Canada and the province. And as previously discussed, this agreement enables the use of the RCMP Provincial Police Service, established in the PPSA, to be utilized as a municipal police service. Municipalities who choose to contract with the province for their municipal policing services are governed by the Municipal Police Unit Agreement. The Municipal Police Unit Agreement prescribes the LGCMC, or Local Government Contract Management Committee, as its forum for engagement, consultation, and collaboration on contract policing related matters. The MPUA provides municipalities with authority to work with their detachment commander to set objectives, priorities, and goals, sign off on RCMP multi-year financial plans, and participate in the selection of their detachment commander locally. As Councillor Hodge will discuss the Local Government Contract Management Committee in greater detail, I'll just cover some highlights and key points of the LGCMC from a governance structure standpoint at this time. Although British Columbia's Local Government Contract Management Committee is not directly included in the national governance structure, as we've covered, it is established under the MPUA, and issues raised by municipalities are brought forward through LGCMC and to the National Contract Management Committee table. As we discussed earlier in the presentation, in BC, municipalities contract with the province for providing policing services, and which is distinct from all other PTs across or provinces and territories across the country who contract directly with the federal government for these services. The LGCMC serves as a forum for local governments across British Columbia to bring forward contract policing related matters that pertain to cost containment and administration of contract policing and the agreements. In particular, it provides a forum for consultation, analysis, and communication between local governments and the province regarding the management of the agreement, under which the RCMP provide local services, and to analyze and respond to changes that may be proposed from time to time by the federal government and/or the RCMP, as well as recommend changes to the federal government and/or the RCMP that may be considered necessary or appropriate. The province co-chairs Local Government Contract Management Committee and is responsible for bringing local government matters to the National Contract Management Committee table for discussion and resolution. Matters that are brought forward by local governments may not always require tabling at Contract Management Committee. Consequently, matters that fall outside the purview of the CMC are responded to and actioned by the province and/or the RCMP as appropriate. Municipalities that establish their own police service are governed by police boards and don't fall under the Local Government Contract Management Committee. Police boards have a variety of responsibilities ranging from appointing a police chief, setting policies and discipline authorities for internal matters. The Police Act directs the composition of police boards, their functions, appointments, and terms. Municipal police boards are still required to ensure their rules and regulations are aligned with the Police Act and any provincial standards established by the Director of Police Services. Let's move on and discuss the current policing environment. As we know, the current social climate brings a range of policing and public safety related concerns. The growing complexity and issues related to crime are experienced by all levels of government and require a collective response. In addition to issues of crime and safety in our downtown cores and communities, other issues include violence against women, guns and gang-related crimes, the opioid crisis, RCMP collective bargaining, and of course, the rising costs of policing and public safety. These issues are important to all levels of government, and the RCMP collective bargaining will undoubtedly impact the cost of policing going forward. The National Police Federation, which is the union that represents the RCMP, is entering into negotiations with Federal Treasury Board for the second collective agreement. Notice has been given to bargain in December, and Federal Treasury Board has communicated to Contract Management Committee nationally that they want to enhance the communication and engagement with contract partners. And this follows the feedback and lessons learned during negotiation of the first collective agreement. Federal Treasury Board has not yet shared what their communication and engagement plan will look like, but once it is shared, the province will be communicating this information with local governments. This is to ensure that you have opportunities to participate and share your perspectives for consideration during that negotiation process. Government's response to the current issues facing us will not only affect our current state and issues, but will also need to contemplate the future state of policing in the province. In particular, how we deliver public safety must be approached in an efficient, responsible, and cost-effective manner to ensure that we remain accountable to the public. The Safer Communities Action Plan will help to address issues around safety in our communities. The province has also approved an unprecedented multi-year investment of approximately $231 million, committing base funding to the RCMP to hire more police. These investments will sustain and expand enforcement and prevention capacity and help to facilitate staffing of the BC Provincial Police Service to reach its full authorized strength. This will ensure adequate and effective levels of policing across BC and equip police with the resources they need to address public safety concerns head on. The province is currently reviewing the recommendations outlined in the special committee on the report from the special committee on reforming the Police Act. The recommendations are many, with an aim to address and respond to systemic challenges and issues in the delivery of policing and public safety. In short, recommendations are largely concerned with requiring innovative and integrative responses for policing. Given the importance of this work, we will work to hold another webinar in the future in partnership with our UBCM partner that's dedicated to the work related to these recommendations. Federal Public Safety Minister has a mandate to review contract policing, and this could change how contract policing is delivered. Public Safety Canada has committed to engaging contract partners, including municipalities, to inform this review. As more information becomes available, including a communication plan, the province will work with local governments through the BC municipalities to ensure fulsome engagement opportunities for municipalities. The current policing service agreements are set to expire in 2032, and this opens up opportunities for discussion of future agreements. As has been outlined, there's significant work coming forward from both the provincial side related to the recommendations and the federal side with respect to RCMP collective bargaining and the review of contract policing. And of course, this will have an impact on municipalities and the delivery of policing services, which are similar concerns to the province. We're committed to engaging and working with local governments as this work continues. This brings us to the end of the first part of the presentation. I'd like to thank everyone for your attention. As you can see, there's a lot of information to cover on policing in British Columbia. And we're very pleased to be delivering this presentation in partnership with UBCM. I'd like to now turn the podium back over to Councillor Hodge, who will take us through the remainder of the presentation. Thank you so much. Councillor Hodge, I believe you might still be on mute there.
You'd think I'd be get used to Zoom by now, but thank you for the presentation. I thought it was really informative, and in fact, I've been involved with the Contract Management Committee for probably 4 years now, and I learned a couple of new things today. So thank you very much. And one of the things that you briefly discussed was the local government RCMP Contract Management Committee, and I'm just going to spend a few minutes now just to explore that in a little more detail. There are 6 items that I will touch on during today's presentation. What is the local government Contract Management Committee? The role of the LGCMC, or Local Government Contract Management Committee, and the members' responsibilities, partnership and collaboration, key issues and advocacy, and how to get involved. So simply put, the Local Government Contract Management Committee is a forum for consultation, analysis, and communication between our members and the province regarding the management of the RCMP policing agreements. The committee is co-chaired by UBCM and the Ministry of Public Safety and the Solicitor General, and it also includes the RCMP E-Division as a key member. And staff from the ministry and UBCM support the work of the committee. While a few other provinces have developed mechanisms for consultation and engagement, the LGCMC is unique in that this committee is mandated through the RCMP policing agreement to give local governments a voice in overseeing RCMP police services. Among other things, this creates a stable framework to discuss local government RCMP policing priorities with our key stakeholders. It also gives us a voice in national policing discussions through the National Contract Management Committee, which you referenced, and both the province and UBCM are members. There are 4 primary roles for the Local Government Contract Management Committee. The first is collaboration, which occurs primarily through regular meetings with the E Division Commanding Officer and the Provincial Director of Police Services. This provides one of the best forums for bringing forward important contract policing issues and hearing relevant updates from our policing partners. Communication is another key function, as the Local Government Contract Management Committee, through the UBCM, provides information to you, our members, on how we are representing your interests. These updates, which also include decisions related to the contract policing, are delivered to you through the Compass, which is a weekly newsletter published by UBCM. This is UBCM's avenue to provide local government with news and updates to its membership in a whole wide range of topics throughout the year. And so if you aren't already subscribed or receiving the Compass in your inbox, then you can sign up through it. And I think we're going to put the link in the chat in a minute. We'll put that up. So if you're not receiving the Compass, this is valuable source of information for a lot of things that affect what's going on in the area of local government. The third function of the Local Government Contract Management Committee is research and analysis, which occurs when the province, the federal government, or the RCMP are considering changes impacting policing services in BC. The committee also helps facilitate engagement with the membership, such as last year's meeting with Public Safety Canada regarding the new RCMP collective agreement. The research and analysis component can lead to the development of recommendations for consideration by the province, federal government, or the RCMP themselves. This advocacy element is vital to the work and value of the committee. And I'll list some of the key advocacy issues near the end of my presentation. And I doubt many will surprise you, as they're all substantial issues affecting our membership here. So I've talked a bit about the work of the Local Government Contract Management Committee. So I'm just going to take a moment now just to talk about the makeup of the committee. As you can see on this map, the most recent group of members represented communities of all sizes from throughout British Columbia. And this is because the LGCMC terms of reference ensures representation is not concentrated in one region, but that communities large and small are included as part of this committee. So it's from throughout BC and communities of various sizing. The LGCMC relies on its committee members in a number of ways. I'll begin by noting that members are responsible for reporting back to the UBCM executive regarding the committee's activities. And another key responsibility for LGCMC members is to represent their regions, as well as those communities of similar size. And so with only 9 members, in addition to myself, the LGCMC relies on these relationships as a means to represent all of you, all of our members' interests. And our role is to bring forward issues that affect local governments that are policed by the RCMP. And by raising these issues, members help facilitate much needed conversations and develop solutions with senior members of the province and with E Division. And through these actions, local members have been able to forge strong partnerships and relationships with both the province and the RCMP on your behalf. This next slide shows the primary this shows primarily the groups that the LGCMC interacts with as part of its work. And while I've touched on most of these relationships already, it should be noted that our work with the province also extends to our participation as part of the National Contract Management Committee, which Jamie referenced. And this is where both the UBCM and the province are members. And together, we ensure your issues are raised at a federal level. And as previously discussed, the focus of the LGCMC is on issues affecting our entire membership. The slide in front of you includes some of the most recent issues and local priorities under discussion. Our advocacy has included delivering correspondence, meeting with the federal and provincial representatives, and conveying concerns to the UBCM executive and the National Contract Management Committee on your behalf. So how to get involved? Well, I hope that this presentation has helped give you a better understanding of the local government contract management committee. And I'll end this presentation with a slide on how you or your colleagues can get involved. And it just so happens that a number of the LGCMC members have seen their terms expire recently, and the committee is currently seeking 6 new members. So if you're interested, I would encourage you to review the January 18th edition of the Compass, or you can contact UBCM staff to get more information. And we are currently accepting expressions of interest until February the 3rd. There are also other ways to remain informed and involved in police and the RCMP contract policing. As previously noted, the LGCMC publishes summaries of its meetings in the Compass. We also solicit discussion topics from the membership on a regular basis, and those opportunities are also advertised in the Compass. And lastly, you may wish to browse the LGCMC webpage, which is on the UBCM's website. And it provides the names of current LGCMC members, including those that may be located in your area or of a community similar in size to your community. And I would encourage you to engage those members or the UBCM regarding contract policing issues. So in summary, we're here to manage the contract on behalf of our members that receive RCMP policing services. When it comes to local policing or operational issues specific to your community, we encourage you to work with your local detachment and if needed, reach out to UBCM staff who are here to provide you with assistance and information.